Hello, it's Meredith Waters on 103.9 Hope FM, where we bring hope, share joy, and build community. And we love building community, and I especially love running into other people who love building positive things into our community. I'm out at the Civic Centre with Craig Williams. He's part of the Actors Hub because they've just been in town and they've performed the One Punch Wonder play, and he's here to tell us all about his involvement in it. Hello, Craig.
Hi, Meredith. Thanks for having me on. I'm the stage manager of the show, and for this regional tour, I'm the tour manager as well. I have to drive the guys around, make sure they get everywhere on time. But my role is I'm not actually part of the devising of the play. I only joined the play recently. We have quite a few sound effects in the show, including a lot of live voiceovers, which the play, One Punch Wonder, we call it verbatim theatre, which means the whole script is taken from quotes from real people, real life situations. And some of those people that were interviewed, you hear their voices in the story. So there's lots of voiceovers that I play, and that's my main part of it.
Wow. And so how did you first get involved in this play?
Amanda Cruz is the director, and she runs the Actors Hub. And so it was pretty well word of mouth, which is how things happen in Perth. I've known Amanda for a long time. We worked together on stage before, so she asked me to join the tour.
I think that happens pretty much in WA and very much in Esperance, word of mouth. Yeah. So it's very effective.
You'd know about it, yeah, especially in the arts community in Perth. It's a very small group. Everyone knows everybody, yeah.
And so what's been one of the best experiences you've had as being part of this tour?
Oh, look, I have loved going to the regional venues. I mean, I love travelling around WA anyway. That's a huge benefit. But it was fantastic to see the audiences. We did. We actually didn't do a workshop in Esperance, unfortunately, but Karratha, we were up to recently. Did a lot of workshops for the high school kids, who are a real target for this show, the audience. And what was fantastic was to see that night, kids from that workshop came to see the play. They all stayed afterwards. They wanted to talk to the actors. They were really affected by the performance. So that's fantastic. We are actually reaching communities, yeah. I'll hand you over to some of the cast who are here, and they can tell you a little bit more about it.
It's Meredith Waters on 103.9 Hope FM. What I'm doing is catching up with some actors from a play that has just finished at the Civic Centre. The play is called One Punch Wonder, and if you've missed it, and I'm guessing a lot of people in our community missed it, I've got some actors here and they're going to tell us about the story of how the show came to be and what they really want our community to hear about this production, One Punch Wonder. Hello.
Hi everyone, my name is Christian Tomazeski and this is my colleague.
My name's Adam Lewenhart.
One Punch Wonder is a show about how we're raising our kids and how we're having discussions to open up about how we're raising, boys and girls, current culture that we have, violence, and how we need to be addressing the issues of that and not making it so a norm nowadays, if I can say that. What about you, Adam? What do you?
Yeah, I would say One Punch is an exploration of what it means to be a man and all the incredible positive aspects of that. But also there are things that we get wrong and culturally there's a lot of pressure on men to be a certain way, which doesn't necessarily lead to a happy, fulfilling life. In fact, what we posit through the play, the play is completely verbatim. These are all real people's stories or real people's words that we've put together to tell this story. What we posit is that it actually leads to a level of depression, which eventuates in violence, and that's sort of the to and from of it. And so we explore that through, like I said, real Australian stories, and we explore it through the one punch, the coward punch. When we started creating the show, that's what we were looking at, just the one punch and the coward punch. But as we explored it, we went, oh, this is a tragic symptom of a bigger problem, which is how we're raising our boys and the sort of space of violence that they sit in and how we can address that.
Well, I have to say, having just watched it, it is very, very impacting, and that if you ever get a chance to have a look at it, it is well worth the time spent. And I'm looking forward to seeing, in 10 years' time, people who've seen the production and perhaps had started on a trajectory different to them, perhaps the path that they were on. And from that kind of introduction to the question I'm about to pose, is what was it that made you bring about the idea of creating a show on this topic?
So me and Chris we're the original cast members of the show. It's had a few variations of cast. But we started working on it in our final year of acting school at the Actors Hub. And our graduating year was 4 guys. And so we went, well, what's an issue we can look at? And the issue we looked at, we were like, let's have a look at the coward punch. And 5 years ago, it was actually a lot more taboo than it is now. It was really difficult to get people talking about it. We had to interview people all the way from Queensland. It was hard to get people in WA who wanted to discuss it. But like I said, as we worked through this, we went, oh, this is awful and so incredibly sad and always preventable, these deaths. But we want to figure out, we've been telling people not to punch people for hundreds of years and it hasn't stopped it. So what is the core of it? Why are we doing it? And why is there a spike of this specific coward's punch through the back of the head in the last 20 years? And so then we start unpacking our culture, and we've interviewed people who've lost family members, but we also take words from experts about sort of the men's mental health and where men sit. And that's why it discusses the 3 lies and as a result, the 3 symptoms of masculine depression. So then our real goal is to start this discussion about what does it actually mean to be a man, and how can we improve, and who's the type of man you want to be? Because it takes a lot of integrity to be that man, and it's not always easy, but it leads to a happier life, not only for you, but for the men and the women in your life.
I'm excited that you are saying that there's been a change from even 5 years ago to now. So I think that we're all hopefully on the right track.
I hope so. This is the thing that takes community. The thing that this discussion about masculinity needs is everyone in on it. You can't do it alone. I mean, you can do work on yourself, but we're looking for a cultural shift so that young boys don't feel this pressure to eventually act violent and kill each other. Because these boys don't mean to kill each other. That is one thing we know. No one throws a coward's punch intending to murder someone. And yet then you've taken their life, you've ruined your life, and the hundreds of people who are affected by a death. And it's all preventable. If we start discussing men's mental health and the type of men that we all really want to be, we can start making change.
Thank you for the part that you're playing to make a positive difference.
Thank you. It's our pleasure.
Can I ask you, Chris, about how your involvement from the start and what your journey has been in terms of your involvement?
My involvement, well, again, I'm one of the original cast with Adam. We started this with 4 guys, and what we wanted to do is bring a voice to the voiceless. And we were pondering and going through many things, and we came across something that we all could stand behind, which was the coward's punch, which then raised something that Adam brought up, was how we're raising our kids, the culture that we're raising ourselves in, and kind of also as a result of that, trying to put a pebble in the water to change or improve that, from stop crying, all those kind of basic little things that we feel that means nothing, but can actually have an everlasting impact on a guy or a child to hold their emotions instead of expressing them, which is also something that we're trying to get out there. It's okay for men or children to express themselves emotionally. The journey for me has been changing, really, because I know I sat in one of those guys that I would bottle my emotions up. And I did step into the world of acting, which is all about expressing your emotions. So that had a helping hand in it, obviously. But for me, it definitely has raised questions on for myself, I always used to see what a man was. He had to be wealthy to provide, be a good provider, never show any weakness, because if I do, then my family can't back up. That's not a man. How can he be a man if he's showing weakness? So it was those things that also, going through this journey, has changed my outlook, and seeing how I personally have to change and open my view to become a better man. And also, more importantly, when I have a family in the future, how I'm going to be thinking about how I raise my kids and the things that I say. So that's been my journey so far. And I'm really privileged to be doing this and touring it, because I can say a lot of people, especially during the lockdowns, have lost that privilege, and we're still able to do that. So I'm very thankful for that.
Thank you. What I'd love to know is, because we're talking about the future, and I've loved that it's such an impacting concept and thought, and we've moved from taboo to no longer, and we've talked about the pebble in the pond.
Yeah.
I'm really interested to know, I mentioned earlier about the 5 years ahead or 10 years ahead. How would you describe what you would love to see happen in 10 years' time around this topic?
Wow, it's a big topic. I guess the basic thing would be a change in the language or the verbiage that we use with our children, or even amongst our friends, to support each other, to be it's okay, you can express yourself to me, vent away, whatever it is. But that's, to keep it simple, that's where I would love to see it, because then I know that there's that openness, instead of blocking it away and going, oh dude, stop wussing out, or anything like that. I don't want to say anything on radio that's going to be against it. But I would love to see just that kind of small change in 5 years' time, because then I know in 5 years there's a couple of generations then that have picked this up and are changing the way they see things, or as well, when they see violence on TV or being exposed to it, they know that there's a fine line between the fakeness and the reality. and the consequences and the virtual world. So I think in that 5 years, that's what I would love to see, like those small steps.
Well, they say that if you start talking about it, it begins to become reality, like you've started with this play. So just to finish off, can I ask you a similar question? What I loved about the play is it was very tangible. And so very interested to hear what your hopes are for the future.
It's interesting because I actually think the show does have some practical steps towards change. And the thing about the show is we don't want it to be a lecture. This is a discussion. We don't have the answers. I'm still figuring out what it means to be a guy, just like anyone, you know what I mean? And I will be doing that for the rest of my life. But we think you need to start talking about it. And so in that discussion of what does it mean to be a man and how we're raising our boys, in highlighting those three lies about muscles and athletic ability, sexual dominance and money and position of power, and that makes a man, when you highlight that, it just gives you the space as a man to go, okay, so do I actually want all these things? Or is this just what I have learned through advertising a lot of the time, in fact, that's what it means to be a man? What do I actually want? And to have men thinking more and more about, so who do I want to be? Who is the man I want to be? What do I actually want from this life? What are the relationships that I want to have? What is the change I want to make in the world? I think that focus for masculinity is the sort of basic change that we can have. When you focus on building strong relationships, moving towards mastery in something, we don't say that in the show, that's my personal belief. But also the big thing I think is also a commitment to a cause. How do you want to leave this place that we're all in as a better place? Then that is the sort of brass tacks impact that we hope to have, just to get men talking about what they want and how they feel, and then making change towards being happier, healthier, stronger men.
There's nothing I can add to that other than to say thank you as a mum, and I'm a mum of 3 boys. So I want to thank you for the example that you've set tonight, and also for the pebble in the pond that you've dropped. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, and Chris, I'm sure.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm really grateful to be here and even being on the radio now and getting our message out there.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Do you mind if I add one more thing? You mentioning you're a mother, because obviously we talk a lot about masculinity, and it's 4 guys doing the show. It was written and directed by a woman, Amanda Cruz, who runs the Actors Hub Studios. And I think it's so necessary. Like, this show that is about masculinity, I think has to have a woman's eye over it, because masculinity also affects women just as much as it affects men. The type of men that we have, as we have seen, can be brilliant for women and can be quite tragic as well. And so I think it's a 360-degree view. Everyone leaves with more understanding, and I'm glad you mentioned your boys as a mother. Our parents coming to see it learn about their children. People learn about their fathers and their brothers and their lovers and their friends and their sons. And everyone who comes to see it learns a little bit more about what men are experiencing in our current culture. And as a result, I think we can all come together and redefine what it means to be a man towards something that everyone enjoys.
That is so beautifully put. Thank you so very much. And I hope that then this is not the last of the plays that you'll be presenting on this as the ripples continue to flow.
In fact, we won't say too much more about it because you've heard us talking for way too long. But it's part of a trilogy, the Blind Eye trilogy, which is One Punch Wonder, The Innocent Pawn, and Is There Anybody Out There? So please keep an eye out for any of those titles coming to Esperance, because we'd absolutely love to bring them down, whether they come down by themselves or come in the trilogy. We're really proud of the 3 shows and really want to get this message out there.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. I want to thank you so very much for taking the time to come to Esperance and project this message, both on stage and, as I've just spent time with you, off stage as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.